All right, guys. So let's get started. So my name is Jeff Wibben. I'm a PGA golf professional. I'd like to welcome you guys to the first of our golf simulator education series events. We're so excited for you to join us today. This is going to be a really interesting event that we are doing with the purpose mainly just because we've been in the golf simulator business since 2016, and we've seen a tremendous amount of confusion on the side of buyers and customers who are looking for some guidance and some help, and they're having trouble finding all the right things in one place. So what we wanted to do was put together a series of events where we grabbed some of the best people we work with and combined some of the best minds, people on this panel a lot smarter than me, and we wanted to give you guys some information that'll help you with your projects so that you feel confident making decisions. So um, let's jump right in. So yeah, just a little bit about myself and our company, Golf Pro Delivered. If you haven't heard about us, we are a company, again, founded in 2016 by PGA pros, and our mission is super simple. Our mission is just to bring golf to you. So whether that's coaching, that's golf products. As you can see here on the bottom, we have 4 types of simulators we sell and provide for customers. We have portable ones that fit in the back of your car. We have weatherproof portable ones that can actually take rain, snow, and winds up to 40 miles an hour for the people that like to be adventurous with their portable simulators. We have semi-permanent, which can be put into a home or anywhere else like an office. But then if you move homes, you can actually take this with you. And then I'll scoot this over. We even have custom permanent simulators. You'll see these kind of pictures popping up throughout the presentation, which are what most of you are looking to do. And again, we're doing this event because we just want to help. This is not an event where you're going to hear a sales pitch. This is an event where, we just want to arm you with knowledge. And can you follow up with us? Can you schedule calls with us after? Of course, but we're not here to sell you guys product. We're here just to provide some education. So what I'd like to do next is introduce the people that are way smarter than me. I'd like to say a special thank you to these 4 guys, and Frank and Mike from Shot Shaver Golf for joining us today. So these 4 guys are guys that I work with, that I've known for a little while, who bring an amazing amount of expertise to the table with different aspects of what we need to know for golf simulators. So I'd like to introduce Tim DeGerlis from Swing Catalyst. Tim's been a PJ professional for 21 years, and he's been with Swing Catalyst for 8 years. So he's been helping the North American, actually you've been all over the world, just helping people with high-speed cameras and different technology and software for different coaching. So I'm really impressed with what I've seen from you, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today. Then we have Michael Cho, who's my go-to guy for everything projection. Michael's an engineer for Epson, and he has over 20 years experience in the field. He does customer support. He puts on his own events. This guy is kind of like Mr. I call Mike Mr. Epson because he kind of does everything, but tremendous amount of knowledge from the technology side. So Michael, thank you for joining us today. I know a lot of people have questions about projection, so we'll get into that. Then we have Brian McAuliffe. I'm so glad you're on the call today. Brian is kind of like, to me, he's like the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the world. Brian installs some of the most high-end custom AV solutions, security systems, fire solutions, and custom home renovation options. So if you're someone out there that wants to know how you can trick out your space, put in automation, you can control lighting and sound from your iPad or your phone, and have your whole house under your control of your smart devices, Brian's the guy. I mean, there's so many things you do, but I'll leave it there for now. So Brian, thank you for joining us. And then we have James O'Hanlon. I'm pumped to have James on the call because James is the guy that makes a lot of this possible. When we're doing home renovations, before we do golf simulator installs, James is the guy that comes in and he makes sure it's possible. So we'll get into what exactly he does, but James is the president of MCC Contracting, and he's been in business for 10 years. And he can do pretty much anything from a construction and contracting standpoint. So for people that have questions about what do you do if you don't have enough space, things like that, this is going to be really, really helpful for you. So let us jump in. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let me just scoot this up. Okay, guys. So today's goal, I want everyone here to leave today feeling well informed for any golf simulator project. Does that mean you're going to know everything there is to know about everything with golf simulators? Absolutely not. But what it will mean is that you're going to feel at least confident that you'll have a baseline understanding of how a lot of this works. What are some of your DIY options? If you wanted to do this yourself, this is a great session to be on because we're going to teach you guys a lot of what you're going to need to know. And then if you're not sure if you should DIY it or hire a professional crew like some of us, the panel members, this presentation is to help you decide that as well. So we're going to do, we're just going to go through. I'll show you guys, this is the outline, but I don't need to read you this because we're going to go into it. So let's keep it on moving. All right, so if you couldn't tell already, I don't take myself too seriously. I like to have a good time, and so does Jack Black. So the very first piece of advice we would give you guys when you want to build a golf simulator is to stop and be patient. One of the things that I see with different customers is they're so excited about a golf simulator project, and rightfully so, that they will rush into a project. They'll start ordering things. They'll see stuff on Amazon they like. They'll start following different golf simulator forums. And before you know it, they're $10,000 into a project and they haven't asked themselves the right questions and built the right plan. So if you're a planner out there and you're like, oh, of course, why wouldn't I plan? You may still be surprised to know there's still some considerations that everyone should check on. So I want you guys to look through this list, and I'll just jump through it real quick. This is what we always recommend for anyone who inquires with us about owning a golf simulator. This is the checklist, and there's more questions, but this is the standard checklist that we have to know the answers to. It helps you stay focused, and it really helps to make sure that you go with the right company options, because there's dozens of different combinations of technology, launch monitors, camera systems. There's so many options out there, so it's easy to get very confused. But having the answers to this clear in front of you will help you narrow it down. So the most important thing, in my opinion, is question number one is, why do I want this golf simulator? Like, what am I really trying to do? If I'm the kind of golfer that's super casual, I don't really care about really accurate data. I really just want to have some buddies over, drink some beers, and play some golf. I might not go for the highest end golf simulator because I don't need 30 different data points on every golf shot. Whereas if I'm a PGA golf coach, I'm going to need a lot of that. So the why you're doing this is a huge thing to understand for you or for anyone you're working with, your contractors or your sim installers. Think about if you're moving anytime soon. If you are, like I showed you guys on the first slide, you're going to want to make sure you either consider owning a semi-permanent option, or you're okay with leaving that there after you go. And it will increase the resale value of your home. So one thing to think about, but just make sure you put your future plan away as well. Budget, don't have to explain why you need to budget. Multi-sport is becoming more and more popular now, guys, with different simulators. Some don't have it, but are adding it soon. One thing to note is it does increase the cost most times of your project. So most people want to add it on as as like a fun extra thing, but they may not know that it can increase the cost of what option you go with tremendously. Most of the higher end systems offer multi-sport. So it could actually increase your options by about $10,000 depending on what you want. So keep that in mind if that's something that's not as important to you. And then, do I want this to be a movie theater also? Very easy flip of the switch type of setup depending on how you do it. We'll talk about that more. We'll get into length, width, and height. And then definitely ask yourself about flooding. Does this space have any chance of damaging what I have? If so, you're definitely want to plan. That's something we talk about with someone like James. You talk about how can we better prepare this space for any sort of water damage or things like that could happen. That's why it's so important to check with a contractor. Sunlight, it's not a detrimental thing, but it's one of those things where you just want to make sure you're protecting your screen from sunlight. And then, do I want to add multimedia into this room? Do I want to watch football while I'm playing golf? Do I want to, have a swing camera, golf software on there as well while I'm playing golf? Most people do. So that's one thing you want to think of in terms of the layout. And then talking about layout, where would I want to put furniture? Some people think about the dimensions that they need and they jam a golf simulator into a space and then they realize after they've built it, oh my gosh, there's nowhere to sit. So make sure you put in, the whole reason for why you're doing this, starting with question 1. If you know you want to do this to host guests and do fun things like that, definitely want to consider furniture. I know some of this may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised. And then the last question that you want to ask yourself is, do I want to take a launch monitor with me to the range? Some of the systems out there are not permanently affixed. For example, a Foresight GC2 or GC Quad, the most popular of these kind of options. You can actually throw them right in your backpack, take it to the driving range, and depending on what software dongle you have, you can actually play 18 holes right at the driving range on your laptop and your launch monitor. So a lot of cool ways you can use these, but it all depends on those questions. So make sure you go through that. So I'm starting with space after that, because this is the number one question. This is literally the question that we get more so is like, do I have enough space? Now, what I did for you guys is I put just a couple 3D diagrams over here. Pretty straightforward. I mean, your minimum dimensions if you want to be playing golf. Now, someone out there might look at this and say, oh my gosh, I have 10 feet of width. You said 12 feet of width is the minimum. Jeff, you're wrong. I'm not saying this is the be all end all the time, but in a general sense, this is what you want to go off of. If you are under these amounts, then you just want to be very careful. Consider this a red flag. For example, if you have 8 feet, 6 inches of height, is it possible that you play golf in there? Yes, maybe irons only. Or it depends on your height. If you have only kids using it, there's definitely ways you can do it, but just keep this as a minimum. And if you go under these dimensions, note that it might be a red flag. And welcome MK, by the way. So glad you could join us today. Played your first round of golf on Pebble Beach. So we're in greatness here. So thank you, MK. And then, guys, the best space. So if you're someone who's building a space custom, which we do get a lot of times, people adding extensions onto their home or building a space out in the back of the house, or if you're in a commercial space and you're looking for a good retail opportunity right now, which is a really good idea if you're looking to start a business. We're actually doing the same thing. And you're not sure how to lay out the space. If you can have this amount of space, 25 foot of length, 16 feet of width, 10 feet of height, that's what I would call the golden space, because you can use any of the launch monitors. You'll have room for seating. You can use floor-based, you can use ceiling-based launch monitors. You'll never have an issue. So this is kind of like your golden space if you're building something custom. And then what I did in here, just real quick, guys, I put the space will differ based on what kind of launch monitor system you go with. For example, if you want something like a radar-based tracking system, like a TrackMan or a Flight Scope, these systems require more length because they physically need, if you can see my cursor, they need more length to track the distance of the ball to be accurate. So versus like a Foresight, which could fit into this space and give equally as good measurements. And so the one other thing to note here, guys, is in terms of if you want righties and lefties to be able to use the golf simulator, like seamlessly without moving any of the equipment, you're going to want something that is ceiling mounted or middle mounted on the floor, like a TrackMan or a Flight Scope. And then you're going to need at least 15 feet of width. So for those of you guys who are trying to put in something like a Unicore, like the QEV system, or the IXO, which has taken the golf simulator world by storm right now, or you have the Valve Golf Trainer, or you have a full swing system, something like that. Just keep in mind, you do need that 15 feet minimum width. So for a ceiling mounted, so keep that in mind. So now I want to start to ask a couple more questions. You guys will note as we're going through this, I clearly don't know everything, never will pretend to. So I want to just ask some questions to people that are smarter than me. So James, you're going to be first up here. Welcome. And just give me a quick test of audio. Just say hello to everyone.
Hey, how's it going? How's that?
Oh, that's perfect. Hear you loud and clear.
Perfect.
So quick question on space modification, James, because we get a lot of people that, they're not sure, do I have enough space, or they may need to modify their space. So just a quick question. This is the most common thing we run into. What kind of renovation options are there for people that have really low ceilings? Like, let's say it's a 8-foot ceiling space in a basement. Can you talk about ballpark costs and what they could possibly look at?
Yeah. So, especially from a DIY standpoint, I'd say that the thing you would want to look to first is the least structurally aggressive option. So, if it's in a basement and you have a finished ceiling, the first thing I would do is to open up the ceiling with some pilot holes and see if, when the space, whether it be a house basement or a garage, was constructed, was there any extra room left in the ceiling that can be captured to increase the overall height. A lot of times in basements you'll have hot and cold water lines that are feeding fixtures on the first and second floors. You'll have electrical lines. In some newer homes, you'll even have sprinkler systems. And a lot of those times, those lines are run below the joists that are in the ceiling as opposed to through them. And a lot of times those lines can be rerouted to capture a lot of space in the ceiling. If there's not enough space in the ceiling, then, if you can't go up, you got to go down. So at that point, we would be looking to either excavate or remove whatever present flooring is in a space, depending on its tile, wood flooring, vinyl flooring, or if it's just a cement slab, then you would have to excavate and go down.
Yeah, that's awesome, James. And so like to just clarify what James said on that last one, if you're checking some basic thing in the ceiling, that's something you can do DIY. But unless you're a professional in the field of construction or contracting, please avoid sort of major home renovations like excavating your floor down 2 or 3 feet, something like that, because there could be things structural or plumbing that could be very detrimental to your job. So just be careful and definitely talk to a professional before considering any of these things. James, can you tell the folks out there just what happened with the last job that we did where for Eric's place, where we got there and he had another contractor change the whole space of the room without ever talking to me. So he had the room prepped months and months ago. And then you and I came in and we realized that we needed to do some work. Can you just tell everyone about that quick story?
Yeah, that's, I think, a perfect example of not, where someone could go wrong and in not planning correctly and just doing the due diligence needed. And not to sound like a specialist, but the more planning you do, the more money you save when it comes to installing this stuff. So if he had consulted certain people ahead of time, he definitely would have saved some money up front in the corrections we had to do. But in his case, I think the original design that he was going for was he wanted to put it was an open room, lowered floor. He had plenty of ceiling height. He had the room finished. But I think his goal was to basically separate the golf sim space from the rest of the space with a big floor to ceiling, beautiful glass structure. And when the contractor went to kind of install the framing around that, he basically dropped what would look like a header after it was finished, I'd say a good 1.5 feet. And to have the sim kind of go long ways as opposed to front to back, which is, the better way to go and what we ended up doing. So, we had to go in there. We had to remove the framing that he had installed in the ceiling. We had to refinish the ceiling, repaint it. And then from the electrical side, the proper electrical cables weren't run to the proper places. So we had to reroute, pretty much all of the electric associated with the sim he was having installed.
Yeah. So back to just a quick flashback to Jack Black here, guys. That's why it's so important before you jump into a project, just stop, do your due diligence. And if you hire a professional crew like us or not, even if you're doing it yourself, just make sure you plan out all these things because we've seen it time after time. People jump into projects and it just gets, you just get in the weeds really quick if you don't plan properly. So thank you very much, James. There might be a couple more questions at the end. But, that was awesome. Um, so guys, I'm just going to jump into a couple of product comparisons. These 6 launch monitors are the most common launch monitors that we deal with. So those are the ones I wanted to talk about. Are there more of them out there? Yes, absolutely. But I wanted to cover a bunch of different price ranges with you guys, accuracy, software quality, and then price value rating. So is this an official stat done by like Golf Digest or something? Absolutely not. This is what we do in-house, just our own private ranking. So for the DIYers out there, I'll start with this. OptiShot 2 and SkyTrack tend to be the two most popular DIY options for like a garage setup. You'll see here from a price standpoint, I mean, this is straight off the website, guys. I mean, from a price standpoint, the value is incredibly high. I mean, OptiShot makes arguably the most economical golf simulator setup in the world. You literally get the swing pad, the software is built in. You just really need a computer, and they even have turnkey packages you can go on their website too. So from a price standpoint, it's great. Accuracy we rate very low. I mean, it does have a lot of issues with drivers, which is the problem. The swing pad will shoot lasers up and it reflects weird off the bottom of the drivers, and that's why it doesn't read drivers very well. But irons is actually not bad. But overall rating score, we gave it a 4.2. And for those of you guys who are Barstool Pizza Review fans out there, you'll note that all the scores are professional scores. These are not 3.0s. These are all 4.2. So David Portman, I don't know if you're going to be joining us on this call today, but wherever you are, I'm sure you would be very proud. For OptiShot 2, we rate the software quality at 5.5. It's not bad. All in all, we give it a pretty mid-range score. They do use their own software. It's okay. But price value rating, we rate it at 9.4. We rate it very high because huge bang for your buck. Jump into SkyTrack. SkyTrack's a really interesting one because SkyTrack is for right around a $2,000 simulator. You're getting the option to take on some really good software engines like E6. SkyTrack's compatible with a lot of different software models. It also starts in the category of being very accurate. People rate SkyTrack as being a very reliable system. Is it the best? Absolutely not. It does have some downsides, including it has to be very close to the golf ball, which if you're not careful, people actually hit the unit with their clubs. Our very first event we did with this, some guy hit it with a driver. So you just have to be very careful with the SkyTrack. But all in all, accuracy rating, we give it a 6.8 professional score. So it's pretty reliable. Software, since it can incorporate with some of the best softwares, we give it a 9.5. And then overall price value rating, we give it a 9.2. So anything above a 9, we would suggest is a great buy, whether you're doing this yourself or you're doing it with us or someone else. But yeah, jumping up to the Foresight GC2, the last of the most common floor-based golf simulator options. Again, these are units that are not built into the ceiling. They are resting on the floor, which means for righties and lefties, at least for SkyTrack and Foresight, you do have to move them back and forth for righties and lefties. But the good thing about these systems is they can work on the left side, they can work in very small spaces. So anything from 9 feet to 13 feet, something like that, these systems really shine because you can do your offset hitting and still make a small space work. We rate Foresight GC2 accuracy rating at 9.1, which is pretty high. It's a great value for what it is. Software is a little bit lagging in terms of graphics quality, but overall the usability of the software is good. It still gets a pretty high score, 8.7. Overall price value rating, 8.9. I think Foresight has been the biggest game changer. If you're not sure what GC stands for, it stands literally for game changer. So Foresight's had this model out for years, and they haven't really changed it much because it has made a big splash in the industry. It's very accurate. So now let's jump up to the ceiling mounted options. Shout out to the Unicore guys out there. If you haven't heard about Unicore yet, these guys are on fire. Really impressed with what they've done. I originally found out about them through Shot Shaver Golf, Frank Argano and the boys over there. They had the QED model back in 2019, and this year they released the new IXO, which is the upgrade. And just a couple differences if you're considering going with this as a ceiling mounted launch monitor. The main difference is that the Unicore IXO is mounted in front of the golfer, about 3.5 feet or so on the ceiling. It has a little bit of a lower height, so make sure you don't put this too high into the ceiling. Try to keep it at around 9.5 feet. If you go higher than that, you can run into some issues with accuracy. It's not designed to be that high up. The QED can be as high as 10 feet, maybe a little bit higher. So just keep that in mind when you're planning your space. If you have an 11 or 12 foot ceiling, you can always build down and mount, different kind of, 2x6s or something like that attached to some plumbing pipe. And you can bring those down to the right height. Make sure you measure and plan that space out. But in terms of price, I mean, you have a great ceiling mounted option. Yes, we have a couple more people joining. Just gonna keep admitting them. Price for QED comes in at amazing 6,000 start. They have a couple different software options that come with it that can increase the price. And then we have accuracy rating is pretty good. QED does require marked golf balls. So if you want a system where you can just pop a golf ball out of your bag, hit your own Pro V1s, that's not this system. Just make sure you're using marked golf balls so the camera can read it properly. Software, since it can integrate with E6 and a couple of the other softwares out there, we rated the highest score pretty much at a 9.5. Overall price value rating, it's our #2 contender, tied with OptiShot at 9.4. Really impressed by the QED. And then going to the IXO, starting at just 4,000 more. You get better accuracy. You're gonna get a couple extra data points. And you actually can use any golf ball. You don't need marked golf balls. So the IXO is a really special unit. I've been really impressed with it so far. And it's a little more accurate than the QED, and I would rate it overall 9.6 out of 10. So far, this has been our most popular simulator option so far. So really impressed with the Unicore guys. Shout out to you guys. They're improving every day. So I'm really impressed. And then the last thing I'll talk about, guys, Foresight GC Hawk. This unit came out to be the upgrade versus the Foresight GC2 and GC Quad, which is not listed here, but phenomenal floor-based option upgrade of the GC2. The GC Hawk gives ceiling mounted option to the Foresight system. It's incredibly accurate. We rate it at 9.5. It does come in at a higher price tag at 16,000. Software, again, is okay. I would rate it pretty good, like an A-, 8.7 out of 10. And then overall price value rating, it's a little more pricey, but still high value option, 8.6. So these are definitely 6 options to look into. Are there more? Yes, absolutely. But just keep those in mind if you're looking for some good options to start with. I'm going to skip that last part there, not as important. So let's dive into to some of the detailed things. We're not going to go too lengthy into these. You can screenshot this. You can do whatever you need to save this data here. But just talking about computers, there's 4 main check boxes you want to consider before you go ahead and buy a computer. Check the central processing unit, the CPU, for the gaming software you need. Same with the RAM or the memory. This is really important because you usually need dedicated memory to run these systems. The software load can be pretty heavy, so make sure it has a dedicated memory to handle that. And then storage, overall storage. Some of these games take up tremendous amount of data, so make sure that your golf sim has plenty of that. And Frank, if you can keep an eye, I think you already are, keep an eye on the chat. Thank you for that. Awesome, brother. And then the graphics card, guys, if you're not sure what a graphics card does, this is kind of the most fun of the 4 of these. Graphics card is what produces the imagery from your computer onto the projector or the monitors that you have. So you want to make sure your graphics card is matching. Now, if you're not sure, make sure you check the website of whatever systems you're going with. Get their PC requirements first. I know it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised. People go out to a store, buy a regular PC, and then they realize it doesn't work. Not all PCs are the same. They have different brains and different engines. So just make sure you do that. If you're not sure where to go, a great place to go is the Microsoft website. They have awesome gaming computers. They do a great job of listing the deals. Sometimes they offer deals. Usually each week they do. So check those out. One other thing too, in terms of your computer, is if you are running 4K, a lot of times if you order 4K cables, they are directional, meaning that the input and the output, different ends, can have to be put in the only one way. If you switch them, they will not produce an image. And if you're putting those through the walls, just a reminder that has to be, just check the labels before you put those on. You'd be surprised that does happen. And then the most common graphics card spec, guys, NVIDIA is the most popular that works with all the gaming systems. The GTX 1060 was very popular, and now the 1660. Some of the newer systems that are running more 4K, like E6, you should go for the NVIDIA GTX 2060 or up. So keep that in mind. That will increase the price, but keep checking those Microsoft deals and you'll see what pops up. Now let's get into projection. I know a lot of people have questions about projection. This is my living room. Just kidding, it's not my living room. I wish it was. I don't know whose living room that is, but I'd love to hang out with you if that's any of you guys out there. So now I'm gonna just kind of give, I'm gonna go rapid fire a little bit with Mike Cho. And I'm just going to ask you some questions. These are literally questions that we get asked the most. So figured I'd turn it over to the expert. Michael, let me get your screen up here. Hang on one second. Make sure I can find you. Okay, now I got Michael up on the screen so people can see you. Michael, can you tell me what these terms mean? Assuming I have no idea. What is aspect ratio?
Sure. Yeah. So let's assume that we're starting from square one in terms of everybody's projector knowledge. If we're looking at aspect ratio, it's just your basic shape of your screen. Today, there are really four common aspect ratios in the industry, those being 4:3, which we use in a lot of signage and simulation solutions, and where your ratio is just that. It's the ratio 4 high by 3 wide.
And Mike, I'm just going to pause you for a quick second. If you look on the screen, would you agree that in the picture that's up on here, can you see my screen? Excuse me. Mike, can you? Okay, so if you look at this back window here, would you say that this kind of a shape, almost like a square, is pretty close to a 4:3 versus this screen here, which is more of like a 16:9? It's even stretched a little bit more. So if people aren't sure, for more of your square enclosures, you're talking about, you're going to want the 4:3 aspect ratio Michael's talking about versus something like a 16:9.
Right. A lot of the enclosures that I've seen are running off of 4:3 because you want that vertical height, as opposed to having horizontal height during your golf swing. And, you know, that kind of brings us back to the other ratios out there, Jeff. So you mentioned 16:9, and that's the one that you'll typically see in the home theater space, mostly because it conforms to that 1080 broadcast specification. 16:10 is, again, that rectangular shape, and that's used more in the commercial field because it can handle both that 1080 spec natively and also the WUXGA spec, which is 1920 by 1200, which is used in the computer world. And lastly, there's 2.35:1, which you'll find in most commercial movie theaters, and that really doesn't apply in this situation.
Gotcha. So for those people that are watching, it's really important when you say that they match the aspect ratio from their projector to the aspect ratio of the screen system they're purchasing. And if they're not sure what the aspect ratio is of the screen, they could simply take the height of the screen and the width of the screen and divide those and compare that to what the aspect ratio is of like a 4:3 or like a 16:10 or something like that.
Exactly.
All right, cool. And then the last thing is on that one, Mike, can you just really quick tell people what Keystone is and why is it so important if someone was going to do an install, put a projector in there?
Sure, absolutely. So Keystone is the ability to correct a projected image digitally when you can't square the projector to the screen. So if you're askew just a little bit, what happens is you'll get a trapezoidal shape as opposed to a square shape. And if you can't physically redirect the projector to completely square, we would use digital keystoning to bring that image in to fit your screen. You know, in the past, that would have affected your image quality through artifacting and video tearing. But with the way technology and video cards are today, that wouldn't be an issue. So you've got a lot of leeway now in your projector installs to not be 100% perfect. And that really kind of comes into play when you talk about short throw projectors. Jeff, if you don't mind, I'm just going to dive right into that because it kind of segues through. Keystoning really becomes a factor when you've got short throw projection. And when I talk about short throw projection, I mean being able to generate a 100-inch image from about 2 to 3 feet away. We use mirrors and special lenses to make that happen. But when you do that, you have very little room for error. If you're off by 5 degrees, you're going to get quite a shift in the image side. So that's where digital keystone would be very important. And you know, short throw is very beneficial for creating big images when you have very limited space. I found that a lot of the companies that will engage with short throw put them on the floor. And that tends to be an issue if there's equipment that needs to be placed on the floor or if you have a putting surface. So short throw is an interesting way to do this, but I found that it causes more issues than solutions.
Yeah, but the good thing is out there are options. But the main thing too, guys, keep in mind, keystoning is really helpful. You can save money by buying projectors that don't have any lens shifting keystone ability. But if you do that, you literally have to be precise to the inch on where you mount that projector. If you're off at all, then the image is not going to look solid on your screen. So keystoning gives you a lot bigger wiggle room to make sure that no matter pretty much where you put it within reason, you're going to have a perfect looking image. You can correct it down to the inch. And Michael, we'll try to keep this a little more rapid fire. I've been a little slow on my end. I apologize. Can you tell people if do you have three recommendations in terms of the prices I listed there? Do you have any projectors you'd recommend for the users out there? 5,000.
Sure. Yeah. So if we're looking for a value projector from Epson, something in the sub 1,000 category, I'd recommend a model called the PowerLight 990U. It comes in just at about $1,000, but it carries a WUXGA resolution. So you're getting 1920 by 1200 pixels. You'll have a great image. You're also getting 3800 lumens. But this is a lamp-based projector. You're not going to find a laser-based projector for that price at this moment.
Yeah, and real quick, Mike, on that, just can you clarify laser versus bulb?
Sure, no problem. So today, there are two different types of illumination technologies for projection. In the past, it was simply a high voltage lamp that would create a real bright white light. We have in the last few years moved to laser, and I want to stress that laser is just another way of creating white light. We're not actually shooting lasers out of the projector lenses. So what we do is we take a blue laser and behind the scenes, we create white light. And that white light goes through some lenses and mirrors in your optical assembly to make your image. So the benefit to having laser today is you're going to get better longevity. You're actually going to get a better image quality because we can control the actual temperature of that white light that's being generated. You actually use less power and you generate less heat. It's also better for contrast. And if I would have to put an advantage to lamps today, it's a price benefit on the front end.
Yeah, and so that's awesome, Michael. And I'll just kind of round out this section. We'll move forward, but that was great. And one thing to know, guys, not all projectors are the same. If you see two projectors that have the same amount of lumens, make sure you check the light source because, for example, like Mike said, laser projectors can give you 20,000 run hours, sometimes more, versus bulb projectors, which usually average, I would say, Mike, am I right in saying about
2 to 3,000?
Yeah, 2 to 3,000 hours. So if you get, I mean, you're changing bulbs pretty regularly if you're keeping this thing on every day versus, 20,000 hours. It's a big difference. So remember, not all projectors are the same based on lumens. Check the light source, check the aspect ratio, check the keystone ability, and check color qualities, things like that. And you can follow back up with Michael. He can literally tell you the most amazing things about projector, but for the sake of time, we're going
to. And Jeff, we can provide an after action report of models so that you can send that out to save time today.
Yeah, that would be awesome, Mike. Thank you. And yeah, we'll be able to share information. There's going to be a follow-up report after this, guys. So if there's anything we missed, then we'll be able to get that back to you. But thank you, Michael. And then one quick thing too for the DIYers out there. If you do need a place just to check and do your own research, you can go to projectorcentral.com. That's a good place. It's not perfect, but it is a good online tool. If you are able to connect with someone like Michael, you can get a much more personal touch and you'll get a lot more expertise put to the table. But just a couple of notes out there for the DIYers. But let's jump into cameras and coaching software. Well, for all the hardcore golfers out there, cheers to you. This is your time to shine with Tim DeGerlis. So Tim, thank you for joining us. The goatee is unbelievably good. I'm sure your high-speed cameras are loving that. They pick up every bit of that action. So let's just, I want to share the first question, which I think is a really important trap that I see people fall into with DIY. So if I'm buying a golf simulator and I check, let's say I buy Unicore or I buy Foresight, and the graphics card says I need an NVIDIA GTX 1660, could I run into any issues if I go with a really advanced swing camera system with Swing Catalyst?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Can you hear me all right, first of all?
Yeah, Tim, I got you. Can you hear me?
All right, yeah, perfect. So yeah, that's definitely, you would definitely want to go up to the Nvidia 2060 on up if you're going to be running a sim along with high-speed cameras. Um, Definitely that is a concern, and we have seen some people burn out their computers, whether if it's a laptop or a PC, just because they didn't have a high enough graphics card.
Exactly. Yeah. So really good. So make sure if you're adding devices to your system that you don't just check the launch monitor, check the extra devices. So thank you, Tim. Can you talk about high-speed cameras in terms of this is a question we get. What's more important, frames per second or in megapixels? How would you answer that question? Sort of a trap question, but how would you answer that?
Yeah, and that really depends on the person, because a lot of people do like the high frames, and then there are people that do like the quality of the video. So in the past, we have sold cameras that were 90 frames per second with a little bit lower resolution. It wasn't the best cameras, but nowadays we have higher frames. I think that it really depends on the person if it's looking for how detailed you want to be with frames per second. And then also too, in regards to the size of the file. So whether if you're using Swing Catalyst, which is the software that I work with, or with V1, JC, you might want to look at the resolution size, frame rate size, and also to the memory, because you can bog down a computer pretty quick if you're going to have both the high megapixels with frame rates.
Yeah, great point there, Tim. And that's one thing to note, guys, especially if you go with systems like OptiShot or SkyTrack, some of the more entry-level systems that have much lower PC requirements. If you add Swing Catalyst cameras or other high-speed cameras into it, the difference in what you're going to need is big. So in that planning stage, really go through, think about what you need from a holistic approach, consider all those things. So really good. Tim, talk about cable length real quick. If I want to put in a custom sim, can I put a 200-foot cable through the walls and run it all the way around and run some? I can run a USB high-speed camera like that, 200 feet, 100 feet, no problem, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad you bring that up, because this is a very common question that a lot of people are really kind of zoned in and locked into USB cameras. But we have found through our company is that about 15 feet is the max to hold the signal without having to have an active repeater, like a powered active repeater. Our company, we don't like that because we don't like to repeat the signal. So if you're going to have anything more than 15 feet, you will have a chance of the camera's not syncing up, or the two images syncing up for a face on or down the line, and just some connectivity issues. We recommend going with a network cable, because a Cat6 Ethernet cable might be the best way to go. You can have the 200, 500-foot lengths, can wrap it around the whole house if you want to, and it's still as fast as if it's right next to the computer. So definitely, I think, do look at which camera you want to go with, and then obviously connect the right cable to it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's actually interesting because that's how Unicore relays their data too. They use the Cat6 system also, and for that reason. So those guys figured that same thing out too. Really, really smart. And that's one thing I just want to highlight too, guys, is if you're out there and you're putting together your systems, it's so easy to go on Amazon, start ordering different cables and different wires. A lot of stuff is mislabeled. A lot of stuff will say it's 4K, it'll say it's Ultra HD, or it's super high speed, or it can handle the loads of these different things. But most of the time they can't. A lot of them are mislabeled, so be very careful. And what a system will do is if you're connecting multiple pieces, adding repeaters, adding extenders, things like that, it will always grab the lowest quality signal and it will relay that to all the different devices. So if you bought 4K projector, 4K compatible HDMI cord, and then you add this relay in there that is not 4K compatible, you're going to lose the 4K signal. So be careful with different things like that. Tim, can you talk about we'll just say this is Jane Smith here. She looks like she's got a great golf swing. Can you talk about what kind of software options, like what can this do? What could something like Swing Catalyst do for a golfer who says, I would love to have some more information about my golf swing? How can this help your golf game?
Yeah, one thing that's unique with Swing Catalyst compared to some of the competitors out there is that you can have up to 4 cameras, which pretty much all video software does nowadays. But an interesting fact is that we can also integrate full swing sims. We can integrate flight scope. We can integrate foresight. We can integrate SkyTrack. So basically those devices, you run them simultaneously. Those devices act as a trigger, so you do not need an external microphone. And then the data from your shot actually gets saved with the video recording. And then we add a sensor plate so you can see some of the ground forces, which is all saved on one video file.
And that's this right here, Tim, right? When you talk about the sensor plate, this is the black pad that Jane Smith is standing on, and you can see the weight distribution in her feet. That's what you were talking about, right?
That is correct. And that's pretty unique to Swing Catalyst compared to some of the competitors, that we allow that integration and saved with the video file along with the launch monitor. At the bottom, you can see the launch monitor, the shot there of, the shot and the deviation distance.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that, I think I'm going to use a line that it was really put out there by TrackMan, but it's sort of the motto of why guess when you can measure, And so we can all say, yeah, your weight shift looked pretty good. Or you could have something like this and say, no, like scientifically, this is the data and this is your trend over time. You are improving because you've improved your weight shift by 10% or XYZ. So tremendous technology. Kudos to you guys over at SwingCap. I think it's really Tim, and just lastly, before we jump to the next section, what would you recommend for the guy or girl out there who's getting a sim and they just need maybe one camera. They just want to add this and they're not looking to spend a ton of money. They want something high value, best bang for your buck option out there.
Yeah, that's really good. No matter which company you go with as far as the video analysis, do check with them to see what's supported because not all cameras are supported. I've had a lot of people go online on Amazon or buy a camera, but then unfortunately we don't support it. So do check with the manufacturer. The one that we have is just a standard, like a 2.0 camera. It looks something like this. You buy it through us for $250, and it's a good standard camera. It gives you everything that you would need to see your swing.
And that's a great value option, guys. By the way, for that kind of camera that is going to work, $250 for a high-speed camera, tremendous deal. A lot of these cameras will go for $550, $600, $750. So that's tremendous. You guys offer that, Tim. Thank you. Awesome job.
Thank you.
And I didn't put my swing up there, save myself from all the critique, but that would have been cool for next time. All right, guys. So let's get into something interesting. Home technology. So if you couldn't tell already, Brian, who's up here on our panel, has this really cool digital background up there. So no surprise that he is our all things tech expert and Brian just makes homes really cool. So if Tony Stark was a real person in real life from Iron Man, Brian probably would have made his house look the way it is. So Brian, thanks for joining us. A couple things I have for you. Can you just talk about if I'm let's say I'm a home buyer, I get a golf simulator, and not everyone in my family is cool with me buying a golf simulator. Can the rest of the family use it? Is this something that can easily be, used for Netflix or anything like that? Can you just talk about the possibilities there?
Yeah, effectively the golf simulator screen, if you just use that same screen, is going to be pretty far away from the viewers unless you have like portable chairs going forward. It can be done at the high end. I'll change my background real quick here to show this is a virtual simulating room, and you can see behind me quickly there's the virtual simulator, the golf simulator and a theater in one, and that breaks out, and give you an idea, as a half and half. And what's actually happening is we're pulling a screen down in between, effectively closing the whole space off, so the room becomes 2 rooms. That is effective because now you have really a theater and a simulator, but there are two rooms just joined. With stadium seating, it's quite a cool space. That particular space, which is here on Long Island, we did last year. Also got sound panels and sound engineering around it. So it's a really compelling space and gets a lot of use. And when the screen comes down in between, of course, we need two projectors now, and each projector is geared to what it needs to do. The screen comes down, and we made the screen wider. So the black area of the screen, the actual matting of the screen is wider than the image so that it really closes off the whole room. So you really just think you're in a smaller room. It works out very nicely.
That's awesome. So it sounds like there's a lot of options out there for anyone who is not sure what they want to do, or maybe they want to customize or trick it out. There's lots of different ways. They also can use that screen for their movie theater if they want to. They can switch back and forth. Brian, can you talk a little bit about if I wanted to integrate, some home automation, if I wanted my lighting or my sound to be controlled through a smart device or some panel, is that something you can do too?
Yeah, you start whenever you want the room to do things. It's probably not going to do them both as well as it could if it was dedicated purpose. But if you're limited on space, some things about the golf simulator itself help, right? There's soft surfaces involved, so that helps with acoustics, and you can certainly put high quality audio and audio equipment into that. I get concerned, of course, where people try to get too much out of one space. So good surround sound, yes. Ideal positioning for viewing, like I showed in the previous image, where you're seeing the sight lines of that image correctly, are going to be hard to achieve, but it can be done. I think if you did a basic room and you are looking to keep in budget, I would think about throwing some beanbag chairs out in front of that couch, in the image that you have right there, and let the kids sit down, or some nice hangout, and it'd be a great family space to hang out. And some of the things we see that are there are a lot of lighting. Lighting is really exploded in our industry. Lighting control, not just in the types of lighting and how we can position it, but its ability to control color. This is quite cool, especially in areas where people are, with COVID-19, we're seeing a lot of basement build outs. So people are taking these basement rooms, and just by changing the color of the light, the color of the temperature of light, it can go from really a white, high-end game space where we're really, kind of hanging out and playing physical active games, or what I consider golf to be, and other activities. And then you chill it out to be a yellow or amber, and put on a movie, and it's kind of a romantic space. Well, you can change these colors where even the regular downlights can change their color temperatures into reds and greens and blues, and turn up the 70s disco, and you've got yourself a nightclub, and it's all in the same place, and it's all in your basement. We've done a lot of motorized stuff. I got to tell you, that's what we see more than everything else. And it's not just lounges. We're moving TVs in and out. We're moving walls and lots of pocket doors, which retract into the wall, like in Star Trek. But two of those together, and you can have a nice hidden golf simulator room that's only available by, the tilting of a famous statue. You have Arnold Palmer statue, and you tilt it, and your golf simulator room opens up, and no one else knows how to get in. People are doing some creative stuff in their homes, especially now, because I think we all feel that we're going to be spending more time at home. It's where our families are. It's where our friends come over. I think it's a really good investment in how time is spent to do it right at home.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great point too. And I love the idea that you can have motorized equipment. You can have a motorized screen. You could even have motorized tee decks and things like that. You can get really fancy. But the reason why that's so important, especially is when space is limited, we get a lot of inquiries of people that say, I wish I could put this in my living room, but it's just going to take up too much room. That's where someone like Brian is great, because there's so many custom creative solutions. You can pretty much make anything work. I'm going to say that, take that with a grain of salt. Can't make anything necessarily work, but almost anything. You can come up with a very creative solution. So it's really good. You guys will have Brian's information after this. You can follow up with him if you want to deck out your space. And then Brian, last thing, for the guy or girl who wants a really high end projected experience, can you make a recommendation on a high value projector you'd recommend that retails for over $10,000? You know, something, you know, for Tony Stark's house, very, very good, something you like.
Sure.
How much over 10,000?
Yeah,
That's the
what
question, because they can get pretty,
yeah,
typically the very high-end projectors are in the
under 20.
very high-end projectors are in the $8,000 range.
Yeah, I'd say under 20, 10 to 20.
Yeah. I would say that yeah, I would say, you know, the Sonys and the JVCs get good ratings, but not because Michael's on the line. I think the Epson's got, and I joked about this before. I think when you look at the performance over price, I think they're priced a little too low. You know, I can say that publicly because I have said it publicly before. It's just that the high-end consumer doesn't necessarily identify Epson with the, you know, Porsche performance. So I have no benefit in at all in plugging Michael and Epson. We do use their projectors on our regular jobs, but sometimes when we get to this
Right, I think we lost.
series of Microsoft, we're going to give you a big bang for buck, and you still won't even spend that much. That's probably the problem, Michael. You need to find a way to
That's a heck of a
juice in those things. So
yeah.
it costs a little more.
Yeah.
I did want to go back and mention one really slick thing I saw that one of our competitors did out west, which is they put an entire theater seating system underneath the floor. So you actually pushed a button and the chairs actually, the floor slid out, the chairs went down, and you had one big room. So if anybody's on the call here wants to do something really, really trick and has this concept, when it comes to motorization, do not think it can't happen. I mean, the Tony Stark stuff is really, there's some engineering firms out there that are doing stuff you wouldn't even believe.
So cool. So yeah, so we're very lucky to have Brian on the call today. Brian is the CEO of Brytech. He's been in business 29 years. So if there's someone who's seen it, I won't say you've seen it all, but as close to it all as you can possibly get, that's Brian. So really appreciate you being on tonight. We'll move on to the next section. But again, guys, I know each of these guys brings tremendous expertise and skill to the table. You will have their information in the follow-up email, so don't feel like you need to rush to get that. We will be following up with you guys by tomorrow with all of their contact information. So moving on, I made this matrix so that if you're not sure out there, if you should do a golf simulator yourself, or if you should hire a team to do it for you, this is Ted here. We don't want you to be like Ted. It doesn't mean you can't do a project yourself, but make sure you follow the planning stage. Make sure you take your time to go through this. And this is a very simple, like very, easy way to do this. It's not, there could be more variables, but just in general, are you a very handy person? Like do you know how to use a power drill? Can you use power tools without wording, things like that? If you are that handy kind of person, definitely move into the yes category. If you're not a handy person, some of these kits even that are designed to be pretty easy, we get calls all the time from people that buy kits and they struggle to put them together. So we recommend, if you're not a very handy person, you don't like to be hands-on and build stuff, just skip and just talk to a professional. Don't go hiring someone right away, but just call someone and just ask for some advice before you get started. If you are handy and you're okay with spending a lot of time, then you should DIY. If you're a handy person, you want to put time into this, definitely do it. But that's another thing too. We realize some people are very handy. They like to do stuff themselves, but they don't realize that a sim install could take up to 80 hours, for different kinds of work. You might add upholstery, you might add different things. A lot of them are faster. Some of them you can put together in a couple hours based on what kit you get. But I would just ask a professional before you do anything. Find out how much time is involved. If you're buying a sim kit, ask them, how long should this take me to put together? And then make a decision. Is this worth my time to do? I know it sounds silly, but you guys would be so surprised. Because golf simulators are so exciting, and it's easy to just jump into the weeds and just want to start doing stuff. So talking about those, for the people that are not Tony Stark out there, like myself, if you wanted to put one of these in your home and you wanted to buy some kind of kit that's easy to put together, I put 5 of the most common kit setups that are out there. So I just want to talk about them very briefly and we'll move forward. You guys can look online for these. You'll see the pricing. OptiShot Golf in a Box is one of the most affordable complete solutions out there. And I'll put complete in quotation marks. But it's a great bang for your buck. If you're the guy that doesn't care about having a high-end system, throw this in your garage. You'll have a great time. Carl's Place is an awesome place to go if you're trying to DIY. You have your what's called literally your DIY enclosure, which looks like this. It's great for basic setups. And then you have your Carl's Pro enclosure, which was an answer to the need for having a much more high-end solution. Keep in mind, though, whenever you're buying a kit, there are some kits that don't come with everything, even though they're called turnkey solutions. For example, Carl's Place enclosures are just kits. They don't have everything. They don't include the aluminum framing required to put these together. The DIY actually uses EMT piping, which is used to like run electrical lines and stuff. But this is something you would actually have to go to the hardware store, buy a metal saw, and you would actually have to cut the framing up yourself or hire someone to do it for you. So just keep that in mind. When you're buying kits, just clarify, ask them, do we need to buy anything else? Some of them list that, some of them will not. So just be careful. You get your True Golf Vista system. That's another high value system. Are you getting the best projection? Are you getting the best computing power? Absolutely not. But if you're just trying to go with a good budget option, do things quickly and do them yourself, these are great. And then there's Foresight Sim in a Box. Got to give these guys a good hand. They've put together a pretty simple way to build a golf simulator that looks pretty good. It's decent. You get pretty good middle of the road quality. You get great foresight accuracy. So we've been pretty impressed. Will this look permanent? Will it look amazing? Will it be the best thing you've ever seen? Absolutely not. But it's a great solution. So just wanted to put those in there. You guys can check those out online on your own. One of these might be right for you. What I did too is I put them in a price quality comparison just so you guys could see budget. If you're looking at these little lines here, if you're wondering what that is, it's like we have OptiShot Golf in a Box complete solution. This is right about $1,000, maybe a little bit more depending on what you go. But the enclosures are the ones that have lines. So anything that price range will vary and quality will vary is connected. So this is like the range for the Carl's Pro. But you have your True Golf Vista system, a little bit of an upgrade on quality. Definitely puts you into that $8,000 to $12,000 price point. You can look these up online. Then you have your Carl's DIY. You can do this with any of the setups. So if you're not sure what tech you want to go with, but you just want to start with building out an enclosure, checking that out, you can go with something like from Carl's. Your Foresight Sim in the Box is going to get a little more pricey. You're going to hit that $20,000 price point up to about 30-ish, depending on what you're going with. The Carl's Pro can work with a lot of different systems, like the Unicore. You can even mount a QED to the Carl's Pro enclosure, which is awesome. Great way to hit a good price point in the 20s. Really, really good option. But keep in mind, again, it does not come with framing. You have to cut your own metal piping. This needs 1.5-inch aluminum. The Carl's DIY needs 1-inch EMT. So keep that in mind. And then your best quality, of course, is custom. A lot of custom installs can range you high teens all the way up to 50, 60, 70 grand plus. I mean, it really just depends. I would say our sweet spot for installations is somewhere in the mid 30s is the most common option for people that want something that looks incredible. That's actually back to the first slide. This kind of a setup, something like that, will run you around mid 30s for a Unicore. That was a Unicore QED system. Very, very good. Again, shout out to the Unicore guys. Are we sponsored by them? Absolutely not. We just are big fans, if you couldn't tell, for a high value option. But as you can see, I mean, if you want literally the best, go custom, go with a professional crew. That probably doesn't come as a surprise, but it will also be, it'll also be your most expensive. So back to the planning is what am I willing to put into this? What's really worth it to me? And that's more of a personal question. We're just here to guide you. And then for those people that really like professional high-end installations, this would be sort of a combination, a collaboration between someone like myself someone like James, Brian, and Tim, and even consulting from Michael, us all working together to put together a really incredible room for you. And typically, if you're like, hey, well, why do I really need that? You'll get some really special things. I mean, you get really custom aesthetics, from color to design to the way you want things to look. You could even put your sport team logos up on the wall. There's different things. You're going to get 4K compatible screens and projection, wall-to-wall putting green, and of course you're going to get impeccable craftsmanship. You know, if you choose to DIY a project, the craftsmanship is on you. So if you put it onto a professional crew, you're going to get guaranteed work. It's going to last you a very long time. So that's another thing to consider. For those people that are going with custom projects, you're looking at typically 3 to 5 weeks from time of payment to when you're actually playing golf. This is usually the order in which things take place. I don't need to go through this in tremendous length. I'll save some time here. But I mean, you got your planning stage. It sounds pretty obvious because it is. But make sure you take your time in this stage. Make it conversational and really ask as many questions as you want. And don't let anyone ever make you feel like you need to rush into one option. That would be the most important thing I could leave you guys with, is take your time. Make sure you feel confident when you're making these decisions. You get your deposits, then we order, we wait for supplies to come in. Contractors will be coordinating with the crew and making sure the room is prepped, the wiring is run, everything's ready. Then you start your build. Typically custom installs will take anywhere from 5 to 10 days. They can be faster. They can take a little bit more time, just depends. And then your completion. If you do get a professional installation, you're going to get trained how to use it. You'll have your tech on site with you until you feel very comfortable. They'll walk you through the software. Just a nice extra touch of having that team behind you. It's turnkey, A to Z, to make sure you get the white glove service and feel really confident with what you got. So yeah, guys, that's it for today. Did we cover everything there ever is to know about golf simulators? No, of course not, but we wanted to give you guys a little bit of knowledge to start with. I want to say a special thank you to our panel members, Brian, Tim, James, and Michael. You guys are rock stars. I love working with you outside of this Zoom call. You guys are great. And I would like to also thank Frank and Mike from Shot Shaver Golf. Thanks for helping us monitor the chat. And with that being said, we are going to jump into Q&A for just a little bit longer. We're not going to have time to take everyone's questions, but I'm going to go ahead and open back up the chat.
Hey, Jeff, so I got a couple of questions logged that weren't answered live. If you want me to go into those.
Yeah, Frank, you show us the way here.
All right, man. Sounds good. Yeah. So we were answering some questions live in the chat, and then we had a couple that I thought I would leave for you. One question that we had, Michael, that was specifically for you, that projector recommendation that you had towards the end of your presentation. I just didn't catch the exact model. And Bill was just wondering what that model would be that you were recommending in that price point range.
Oh, sure. So for sub 1,000, it's a product called the Powerlight 990U.
990U. Excellent.
Frank?
Yep, just throwing that in the chat now. Everybody has it.
Very, very cool. Thank you. And the Powerlight series, by the way, guys, is great. If you're looking for portable projection options.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
That'll do.
Portable projection for the Powerlight has been great. I mean, this is something you could throw in a backpack, move with you. It's been really, really good for us and our team.
And if anybody wants a short throw recommendation, please feel free to reach out directly to me so we can actually discuss that. And I can help you guide you through that process.
Awesome. So the next one that we had, Jeff, was from Chris Weed. He was wondering where you came up with the Unicore, the 7.5% accuracy rating. Just want a little bit more detail on that, of if you thought that number was based off of number of readings taken or accuracy of the readings that were being generated.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And like I said, this is not an official rating system that's recognized by the golf community. This is just our own internal realization. I would say, by the way, guys, anything that's above a 6 I'm considering as good. So for a 7.5, that's considered very accurate. This is in the performance category. So if you go with the QED, for example, this isn't something that you should feel like you got a 75 on a test out of 100. This is just saying, you know, we're trying to go pro scores here. No one's getting a 10 out of 10. But QED is a great system. We haven't seen any major issues with it in terms of accuracy. It's been a very reliable unit. It's survived all the testing from some pretty strenuous testers out there. So if you're looking for that high value ceiling mounted option, the QED it's not gonna let you down. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. And Jeff, I'm going to go with a shameless plug here, but we have a YouTube video on our top 5 features of Unicore
that they offer. So I'm going to go into the menu
that I swear has a bunch of value in it that I think everybody that's interested in Unicore will enjoy. Not just trying to get the views, I promise. So that's some Unicore info. And now the last question, Jeff, was regarding to TrackMan.
Frank, really quick, can you just throw in the chat just maybe the link to your YouTube channel? Do you have it up real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I just sent it to our buddy Bill there privately by accident. Bill, that was.
Put it in put the whole thing in the thing, the everyone chat in case anyone wants to learn more about that.
Sounds good. All right. So the last one, Jeff, was if you could possibly touch on any of your experience with TrackMan. Yeah. Was there more specific information in terms of like what they were looking to hear, or? Just can you comment on TrackMan too? And I just have I looked up some basic room configuration numbers.
No, I was curious why you guys didn't cover it on the list of sims that you did cover.
Yeah, good question, Jay. So the reason why we didn't cover it was because it wasn't on the top 6 most common simulator installs that we do, or from the inquiries we get. We did mention TrackMan just briefly, but it's interesting because, I mean, TrackMan right now does hold the #1 position in terms of outdoor radar launch monitor technology. So it's a good question to ask why we didn't cover it. But I think it's interesting because TrackMan has never been known to be the leader in indoor simulation. They've struggled a bit because they put all their eggs into radar technology, which needs a lot of space. Same with FlightScope. So they designed their units to be used outdoor. I mean, the technology actually comes from tanks. If you're not sure, the radar that was used to track incoming and outgoing missiles on, I think it was the Abrams tank in the US military, that's where the technology came from. They realized they could track golf balls, and so they did it. But in terms of extrapolating data from a very short range, they had some trouble. And so what you're seeing now with some of the newer TrackMan units is they're switching to a combination between radar and photometric launch monitor technology. It's really interesting. I think TrackMan and their engineers are going to be coming out with a lot of interesting things. So definitely keep an eye on them in the next like 12 to 18 months. I think a lot of stuff's going to be changing and evolving.
Have you had any experience with the TrackMan with the camera in it?
In terms of like seeing it work, yeah, I think it's a great unit. I mean,
okay,
it's pretty reliable. Just keep in mind in terms of price, you're definitely in the upper echelon of price.
Right.
Another advantage with TrackMan is that it is portable. So if you do want to take it with you to the driving range, it's a tremendous unit. I mean, you can't really say much bad about TrackMan. It's unbelievable technology that they have.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Just make sure you have plenty of space. I mean, they'll say on their website, this is one thing we did some testing on. I think on the website for the TrackMan 4, it says you need a minimum of 16 or 17 feet of depth. But you want to make sure you have at least 20, because the higher the club head speed gets, the more space you need. The data does get a little bit unreliable if you start getting under 20 feet. So just keep
okay. Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, good questions, Jay.
And last one, Jeff, is a question about Mevo Plus. It was just one more technology question. I guess you touch on the value that you see, and then if you see people use Mevo Plus, and if you've seen it used, at home in a simulator setting.
Yeah, good question. And I wish I had a better answer for this, guys, but I only really speak to what I know, and I haven't installed a Mevo Plus before, but I have been following it pretty closely on the forums. From what I've heard, I mean, I'm only going to speak from what I've read. Mevo Plus seems to be a really good high value option. It's not going to compete with, directly with a TrackMan unit or something like that, or even a FlightScope in terms of, well, it is FlightScope, but in terms of like the main FlightScope units that are out there. But bang for buck wise, that's a really high value option. But I wish I could give you guys more, but I would say in a future session, I'll probably have more testing on that for you guys. But But yeah, good question. Maybe I can find someone else who could get you better information if we follow up later. I'll be able to direct you to the right people.
Yeah, one thing I have about the Mevo Plus, Jeff, is really easy to connect to an iPad. I think a lot of the some are like the other, like the Foresight systems and stuff like that. Easier to connect to like a PC or something that has a little bit more juice to it. But the iPad is really easy with connecting to the SkyTrack and the Mevo Plus. Mevo Plus has really good options for easy at-home games and stuff like that you can do on the Mevo. So good value, I think, and an easy connect to that.
Yeah, and it can connect to your iPhone too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's good on iOS, which a lot of people use and might have in the house already, where, sometimes you're in for a shock when you have to buy technology and then a computer that, matches up with it, or a PC that matches up with it. So really simple to connect to an iPad or an iPhone that you already might have at the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. And real quick, the one thing I thought of that we didn't really talk much about was screen quality. And I want to share something really like basic first that, believe it or not, some people are confused with. A regular projection screen that you would use for a home movie theater is not the same thing as an impact screen for golf. I know that might sound very obvious, but people do get confused. If you hit a golf ball at any regular projection screen, it's going to go right through. So make sure you're using an actual braided impact screen for golf. And one of the easiest ways to tell the difference in quality for screens is just the porousness of it. So if you see that it's very dense in the fibers and the nylon fibers, it's a pretty good high quality screen in terms of image quality. And then if you notice it has a lot of visible holes to it, it's not very dense. A lot of light will go through it. It's like if you were going to punch some big holes into it, obviously you would lose screen quality. So just keep that in mind. There's usually 3 different kinds of quality on these different kit sites. You'll see like a standard, an advanced, or like a premium. We always recommend going premium. It's typically no more than 30-40% more, and it's good. They're both going to last you a long time, and you might as well do it right for just a couple $100 more. So just keep that in mind in terms of screens. Any other main questions there, Frank?
No, that's it for all the questions have been answered in the chat.
All right, awesome, guys. Hey, well, I know we went a little bit long. Actually, no, we're pretty much right at time, 7:20. But yeah, again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended tonight. I hope you found this interesting. This is not going to be the last event of its kind. We're going to continue this series. We don't know exactly when the next event is going to be, but if you found this helpful, feel free to invite your friends to the next one. Or if there's anyone else, or if you'd like to join us next time, you're more than welcome to. If you want to follow up with us, if there's any questions we didn't get to that you didn't ask in the chat or anything, look out for an email. It will be coming in the next couple of days. We'll give you guys all the information and access to the panel members, including Frank, and that way you guys can get help if you need it. But again, thank you guys. Thank you to the panel members. You guys rock. Look forward to working with you guys soon. And I hope you guys all have a great evening. Wherever you are, stay safe, be well, and good luck with your golf games. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for putting it together.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.